Manning out of the gun. Manning lets it fly. It's caught by Thomas. There's the record for Peyton Manning.
And welcome in, everybody, to the MHRT Podcast. I am your host, Mundungus Creevy. As always, here with my co-hosts, 6'10", Mr. Boggins and Glenn Hauser. We want to make sure that we wish every single person a happy Veterans Day. To all my battle buddies out there, I appreciate you. I love you. And it was an honor to serve with you. Make sure that you like, subscribe, share, comment, turn on notifications so you can get alerted anytime we go live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, if you want to support the network, you now have that option. The link is in the description below. You just follow the directions on there. And tune into all of our podcasts, Broncos Talk, which goes live every Tuesday at 7654. The Nothing Rides the Orange and Blue podcast every Friday at 7654. And the Neighborhood pregame show that airs before every Broncos game. How's it going, everybody?
Good. How are you today?
Peachy.
Doing all sorts of good. Thank you for your service, Mr. Mundungus, Wizard of Soldiers.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Wizard
Also,
of Soldiers. That's a new one.
also to my cousin Ivan and my other cousin Adi, who also served in the Army. Thank you guys so much. Hope you guys had a really good day.
Johnny and Isaiah. Don't leave them out either. Johnny and Isaiah.
Absolutely.
Veterans as well.
Nothing rhymes with. Thank you guys as well.
All right, so let's kind of start digging into some things here. The big news, obviously, around the NFL: OBJ goes to the Rams.
Yep.
Wide receiver.
Why does my name say Richie Riche? That's my question. That is what I want to know.
Hey, welcome to Broncos Talk. We're your host.
All y'all look alike.
You both have terrible beards. Yeah.
I think he just called you
wow.
Canadian.
Thank God mine's starting back, man. That whole
Boom,
Halloween
fixed
costume was not worth it.
Okay, so OBJ goes to the Rams. I was not expecting that. I could have sworn it was going to be the Packers.
I thought it was going to be the Raiders.
What?
I didn't even hear the Raiders. I thought Chiefs, but this guy's going to be wide receiver 3 in LA, so it'll be fun watching him complain about no targets 3 games in.
Well, the Rams just need to figure out how to add Tom Brady, and the Infinity Gauntlet will be complete.
No, they have.
I don't
Stafford.
understand.
Baffert.
Whatever. I don't. Oh yeah, we're talking about the Rams.
Mhm.
I just don't understand how you don't go with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Len Jones. It doesn't make any sense to me.
He
really
has a
doesn't.
house in LA.
Especially-
He trains in LA. His Von Miller and very close. He went to LA.
And
I mean,
I
Yeah.
get that, but at the same time, like if you're wanting to be more productive in a system, why would you not want to go where you're going to be obviously a number 2 wide receiver?
Yeah, it's basically going to be. I think it's going to be probably worse than what happened in Cleveland, just for the simple fact that even though OBJ's name doesn't carry as much weight as it did when he first came to Cleveland, and that whole trade blockbuster bombshell rocked the entire league. I just think that the Rams are already stacked with just the addition of Von Miller, and adding OBJ to that offense isn't going to make them any more better than what they should have been. What they, going into this past Sunday night where they just totally laid an egg against the Titans. So OBJ is there for a 1-year rental. He's probably just there to pad his numbers and make himself look a little bit better. But I don't see him coming back with the Rams again one more year, even if they do win the Super Bowl.
Well, how do you pad your numbers when
I'll
you
say
have
that
Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods getting the balls?
and Van Jefferson.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the saddest person in the league though is probably Cam Akers right now. What a year to get hurt! Like a dude that was looking real good, and then he's out when they are really making a push to go to the Super Bowl. It's just like, oh, what a bummer for him. But I don't know. I don't know how much BJ is going to do. I mean, it's going to give him another option, which is always good. So, I mean, I think it'll just add to it. Well, the one thing I was worrying about or thinking about is, say, I don't wish injury on anybody, but if Matthew Stafford goes down, you have Walford, John Walford behind him, and then you have Perkins out of Virginia Tech. I don't remember. Anyways, you don't have very great options behind him, so you better hope to God that dude stays healthy. Otherwise, you would have put all your eggs in one basket, and then it's over.
Yeah,
you're literally right, and I'm pretty sure Rams fans were kind of gasping when they saw Matthew Stafford roll his ankle this past Sunday night, and he's slated to be okay. He could be probably pushing himself to play a little more than he probably should this coming week. But I totally agree with you, Boggins, especially with Cam Newton going off the market today. So the big name of free agent quarterbacks out there, it's not as big as it was, going into last week or so, I would say.
Yep.
And we also have
just
another
for the
superstar off of the free agency, Mr. Cam Newton.
Oh yeah.
Segway!
Going back to the Panthers, but he's getting paid starter money. It sounds like he's going to start. So what are they going to do with Darnold now?
Is there a difference between starting and starting? Is there a pay
There might
increase?
be.
Okay, I was just wondering.
It sounded like starting puberty, more like it. But
oh, okay. Yeah, I'm interested to see how he's gonna.
I'll raise you my 6 kids.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
I'm interested to see what he's gonna do in when he has less than anything he's ever had before, essentially over there. So I don't know if it's gonna be that much of an upgrade between him and Sam Darnold, and that's not saying a whole lot. But I mean, but if McCaffrey can stay healthy and Cam Newton, their running game is going to be decent potentially. I don't know. I don't see the point why you wouldn't just have what's his name from the
PJ Walker.
Walker.
Yeah.
Why you wouldn't just run with PJ Walker? I don't know.
You've got to think he's going to start this next game though. They just signed Cam.
Yeah, I would think so.
Well, you have to check out Tim Jenkins has worked with PJ, and Tim was very good. Tim was very opinionated on Twitter about this signing. Sure. It's worth looking into.
Yeah,
Panthers make some weird choices though. So ownership over there, man.
Oh yeah. So let's swing over to the Broncos side. A real quick note: George Payton's father died on Sunday after a long battle with Alzheimer's. So thoughts and prayers, condolences out to the Payton family.
Yeah, it sucks when I read that. My grandma's going through Alzheimer's right now, and it's a really nasty disease. You really hate to see it in its progression, and the fact that you kind of feel powerless and helpless just watching somebody's mind literally go through that progression or digression, I guess you could say, is terrible. So condolences to the Payton family.
I will say that there's no I don't know of a better organization to be able to be there for Peyton than the Denver Broncos, having gone through. The Bolin family is very familiar with Alzheimer's, and so I'm glad that at least has people around him that can at least relate to him. And absolutely condolences, prayers, and best wishes out to the Peyton family in this time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Savage Sev gives me the segue I was looking for. So he says playoff push. Now, over the last 5 games, did anybody think we'd be sitting here talking about a potential playoff push?
Yes, I did. Where have you been?
Liar. Lies.
Not true.
Lies. Now,
can you pick my lottery numbers, Glenn?
Yeah. I didn't expect to win against the Cowboys, but
yeah. So do we? I think it's been fairly well established that we've got to win 10 to 11 games to even be able to sniff the playoffs. Do we still think that's a possibility?
Feels like there should be an asterisk next to that.
Our division. I think the only thing that's really setting it up for potential playoffs is that our division is so up in the air right now. Like, it's really weird to look at our division that we potentially thought was one of the best
upside down.
Yeah, like the best divisions. And I mean, maybe we still, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of bad NFC teams, and there's like that weird stack of like elite teams at the top, and then it kind of just falls off after that. So it might be just that, but I think that we do have potential to potentially break through in the AFC West, to squeak in, especially with the extra playoff spot this year. Just makes it even more of a more potential. We have a couple of winnable games coming up, or we have one at least. Before we have one potential win against the Eagles right before our bye, which then will help us into the following week. So I think that we have a good opportunity here, but we'll see if we kind of go back to our old ways, or if this new spark that seems to have come out of nowhere continues, because I like this Broncos team that I'm looking at right now.
Steve Starkovich says NFL Network says we will finish 4th in our division still. Ha!
I feel like they say that every year about us.
It's interesting. If we beat the Eagles this weekend, we will have wiped out the NFC East in our first 10 games.
Yeah.
Snap of the fingers, Glenn.
I mean, that's the NFC
I know, but
East.
still,
I've always wished we could be in the NFC East sometimes.
And a lot of this has to do, obviously, with how the Broncos continue to play, right? So what we saw against the Cowboys I'm not going to say it was that much different, but it wasn't necessarily the same as we'd seen in that 4-game losing streak. Now, I was listening to trying to listen to as many of the podcasts as I could, Locked On and DNVR. And I listened to Tim Jenkins on there, and he was saying, if you look at the Cowboys game, Teddy Bridgewater really didn't play that different than he had before. Just everyone else around him seemed to play better, or put in more effort, or care more. You know what I mean? And so it kind of depends on, I think, if we continue to play that way, or if we play against how we did Washington. Because if we play the way we did against Washington, we're not going to win many more games.
You mean scraping by just barely?
I think botching at the end too.
Well, I think that Teddy was fully healthy in this game, but the two major things were the steady dose of running to the point where we had the ball 40 minutes out of the 60, and the incredible play by the defense when they were on the field the 1/3 of the game. I mean, they were just an inspired bunch. I mean, to see Simmons so jacked up after that first 4th down stop. I mean, the Cowboys really seemed to give The Broncos a favor. Do the Broncos a favor by.
All right.
I was waiting for the accent. I think the Cowboys did the Broncos a favor by going for it on fourth, because apparently that didn't sit well with the players, and they took motivation on that. So that I mean, what a win! And Adon was actually there, so he should weigh in about the experience.
Man, you know what?
I was gonna say it didn't really matter where you stood; you could see over everybody.
I literally wanted to do like Mike said, was just I could have, but apparently the standing section where I was at, there was like a section, like a part where you couldn't stand because it was meant for to keep it open because there were people with wheelchairs walking by, so you couldn't stand on that part, even though I just kind of flirted with the edge and I just kept looking over so I could see the players. But you really didn't need to, because the screens there were just huge. Even the side screens were just gigantic. It almost looked better than actually having to look down on the field and see what the rest were, or what the players would look like. But shout outs to Broncos country for coming out and just representing. I mean, they really, really did come out and just represent. And I know what I said.
Let's just recap. You said people in
with
wheelchairs
walking by. Yeah.
Just wanted
Yeah, people with after I said it, I realized what I said. What I meant to say was people.
Boy, that's going on.
We know what you meant to say.
Anyway, yeah, going by. I meant to say going by.
It was so loud when the Broncos made a play there. It must have. I mean, what would you say the percentage of the stadium of Bronco fans was there?
It was really, really impressive, because there were more Broncos fans standing in the section where I was than there were Cowboys fans. And I mean, every single time when the Cowboys went for it on fourth and they couldn't go for it, it was just, you just saw like a wave of orange go nuts. And during halftime, everybody, it was like a giant rush to the bathroom for concession stands or whatever. And it was just literally, you're standing next to, people, there's no space whatsoever. And it's just Broncos players and Cowboys players just talking trash to each other, saying, there's 30 more minutes. The game isn't over yet. And I just kept saying, I was like, if you leave now, you'll beat traffic. I just kept saying that the entire 30 minutes of halftime, and people were cracking up. People were chanting Broncos. There were people taking selfies with like a couple of people that were really decked out in Broncos gear with ponchos and masks and whatever. There was even some girl dancing on a table because the Broncos were crushing the Cowboys. It was really fun. I had great. It was almost, I don't want to say it was better than when I went to Mile High, but it gave you that vibe that it felt like it was almost a home game. Even DeMarcus Ware was there, and if you follow him on Instagram, he recorded when Cowboys fans were leaving in the middle of the third quarter. They were just walking out, and they were walking past us, and all the Broncos fans just got together. We started chanting. They were up on social media, just having a really good old time. It was great, and I'm really glad that I actually stood up for that game instead of going to sit down, where Broncos fans were more scattered sitting down than there were in the standing section, where it was just a bunch of us all grouped up together.
Did you have better seats than Jordan Love's mom, or were they?
Well, I mean, I've never been up on a blimp, but
that was great.
That was funny. So I did have a few observations I wanted to throw out there. One is you could see the difference in the offense with the yards after catch. We finally got to see the receivers run with the ball after they caught the ball and get the yards after catch. That's what opened it up, along with sticking with the running game. Now, it looked like we were going to go away from the running game there for a second, but then Mr. Javonte Williams, who, by the way, was named Rookie of the Week, just blew it out of the water and kept getting those big runs. Gordon came in, was doing the same thing.
Man, if only someone would have mentioned Javonte Williams.
Let me just say that Javonte Williams got robbed of the scepter for angry runs. I saw that segment. There is no way that that run by the Cardinals player was better than Javonte Williams. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Broncos fan. I'm just saying that he was robbed. That should have been Javante's son.
It's fine. He's gotten it like twice already, so maybe
I know, but still,
they have to give it like a week off, and then he'll do something again this next week, and we'll be like.
But how about our boy Quinn Miners on that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like when you actually have someone that's less experienced, like running more is better for an inexperienced offensive lineman. And what did he do? My God. Like he kind of looked like Bowles last season against the Dolphins when he rolled out and just like laid out the safety.
Mm-hmm.
Or no? Was it Xavier Rhodes? I think it was Xavier.
Did you
Rhodes.
see?
Anyways,
did you see the end of that run when Miners went out and it was belly flopped on a guy? That was so funny.
He thought he picked him up like
he's like a tree. So he just sees a tree that he trains on and just like, I'm gonna knock it.
Wham.
He's just a lumberjack out there.
Yeah. So the last thing that I wanted to say, and it's kind of a question as well. So we saw Shermer. The game plan that he picked seemed to work for the entire game. But nothing really went wrong for the offense in this game. It seems like anytime we get into a situation where all of a sudden we're behind or our offense is going 3 and out and the defense can't keep up, that's when the game plan changes and things go all crazy. So are you guys as nervous as I am for the next time that something goes wrong to where all of a sudden we're back to the 4-game losing streak Shermer instead of the Dallas Cowboys game Shermer?
Yeah, I can totally see what you mean, Mike, and I have to agree with you because as great as the Cowboys, as great as the Broncos defense was and offense, there's no doubt about it. There were a lot of times that the Broncos got bailed out by the refs. That special teams call, that rule, everybody in our section was Googling that rule because we had no idea what the hell was going on. We thought it was Cowboys football. And then when they announced that it was Broncos football, like all the Cowboys fans went nuts and started yelling obscenities and stuff.
Well, did they forget Leon Lett? I mean,
I also feel like as Broncos fans, we are not allowed to talk about refs this week. I think that the only people who can talk about refs are Bears fans.
Yeah,
that was dumb.
I think
that was so stupid. Yeah, but unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that because it was Broncos related that they didn't relay on. That the announcer didn't relay. So a lot of people didn't know when Pat Surtain went down and got hurt, when Glenn Glasgow got hurt, and because it didn't show up on the Titantron, or the announcer didn't announce it. But basically, what I saw from that game, though, Mike, was just kind of seeing the Pat Shurmur offense starting to slowly gel with what Teddy Bridgewater can do. When Teddy Bridgewater can actually see and read a defense and call an audible or actually get the play that's being called into his helmet and execute it correctly, it can be done it can be executed perfectly. That throw to Kendall Hilton on that blitz was the perfect example, because there have been other times where Teddy Bridgewater scrambles out of the pocket and he tries to make a play, but unfortunately he either doesn't get it, he can't get the ball away, and he gets sacked. All the times that Teddy Bridgewater got sacked in this game, you could say 2 or 3 of those were really unnecessary. It was just him trying to make a play, and it didn't happen, and he just took the sack. And we should be really lucky that he didn't fumble the ball on those sacks.
You know, one of the underrated passes for Teddy was the pass to Patrick right before the touchdown bomb to Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
When he lobbed it over and Melvin thought it was supposed to be for him and going over his head, and
he just didn't put a hand.
It was perfectly placed on the sideline for Timmy. And that was a scary moment too when he went down in a heap and he's laying there. You know, thank goodness it was a cramp, but he's still been listed as a knee. So it would be interesting to hear what the actual truth is on that injury.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of injuries, we know that Bowles and Glasgow are going to be out for, well, at least we believe Bowles is going to be out. Glasgow's out for the season. It looks like Massey's going to be back, and I've got the injury report here. So it looks like McTelvin Ajim, Albert Okwuegbunam, Tim Patrick, Malik Reed, and Caden Stearns all came back to practice on Wednesday. Stop, leave me alone. Garrett Bowles, Bobby Massey, Shelby Harris, and Pat Surtain were out of practice for the second day in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And then Reisner, Browning, Schlotman were non-participants after being limited on Wednesday. Reisner should be fine. He said his foot got stepped on during practice. And then Boone was a limited participant with a hip injury. But we had Browning and Reisner were on a side field, or Browning and Surtain were on a side field practicing.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they'll be okay.
Well,
but if if Bowles is out, I'm assuming Calvin Anderson's sticking to left tackle to fill in for Bowles, correct?
That is true.
It's the stronger side.
And then it would be Reisner, Cushenberry. I'm assuming we're going to continue to have Miners at right guard.
Miners has already been announced a starter at right.
And then if Massey is out, is it Fleming? It's Fleming, right?
It is Fleming, yeah.
So if Bowles is back, is it still Fleming over Anderson at right tackle? Or does Anderson go over to right tackle if Massey's out?
That's a good question. I feel like it would probably be Fleming just because of the more experience at right tackle. I think Calvin Anderson is really good really good left tackle. A good left tackle. And I don't like, he played once against the Raiders, I believe, at right tackle, and he got lit up. So hopefully, he would be able to if need be, but I like him more overall as a tackle, but I think Cam Fleming did pretty decently this last week. So I would definitely say they would stick with him.
Yeah, and we cannot go into this game underestimating this Eagles defense, especially that front D, because Hargrave has been pretty much the talk of the Eagles team. Fletcher Cox seems to be in a bit of a downtrend. He is getting older. And, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's washed up or anything, but he's just, because of the fact he's getting shown out by Hargrave, he's just not as intimidating or looked at as a threat as much. So it's just more time for Hargrave to go out there and be using Fletcher Cox as a distraction. But what I was going to say, Mike, was basically the interesting thing about bye weeks, especially when they're, I don't know if you want to say late into this part of the season, is that while the Broncos would be great for them to get a victory going into the bye, it kind of plays both ways, where the Broncos built up a giant mountain of momentum going after this Cowboys game. And then beating the Eagles, while it wouldn't be the exact same amount of momentum as beating a team like the Cowboys, it would add to that momentum. And it's kind of like a double-edged sword, where the Broncos players do need the rest. But after our bye week, the schedule does get tougher. We got the Chargers coming back into town. We got rematch with the Raiders, Cleveland, and all that good stuff. So I'm interested to see how the Broncos kind of look into part 2 of the season, and do they play off of what they found out their strengths are with the Cowboys victory and then hopefully a victory against the Eagles, or do they kind of, I don't want to say go back to the drawing board, but try to figure out how they can keep kind of scrambling and keeping the opposing offense or defense on their toes, instead of by switching guys on the O-line or Pat Shermer coming up with plays that work better with Teddy Bridgewater's strengths rather than his weaknesses.
Well, we have, so Surtain is day-to-day, and Callahan is out. So if Surtain is out, who goes on the outside? Do we put Fuller back on the outside?
Yep.
And then who takes the nickel?
Bassey. Bassey.
Bassey's back fully now, right?
Yeah, and Dawson got signed to the practice squad, right?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, we brought Duke. So Duke Dawson came off injured reserve. We dropped him, and then we picked him up and put him back on the practice squad.
He had to clear waivers.
So my question is...
and Massey's wife said that he'll be back right after the bye. So she went on Twitter and gave a medical report.
Well, and that was kind of my question on Surtain, is like, do you just sit him the Eagles game, let him have that game in the bye, and then start him again and let us figure it out that way? Or should we push him to play?
I think they'll probably suit him up. He might get like some rep plays just to kind of see if his injury is lingering or if it'll actually affect his gameplay out on the field. But right now, I would say that the Broncos are in a position where if they don't need to risk a player possibly getting more injured than they already are that they shouldn't. I mean, they should have learned their lesson with what happened with Bradley Chubb at the beginning of the season. So as great as Patrick Surtain is and is going to be, I would probably say that if his injury doesn't look like it's going to get better and that there's a more chance that it can get worse, that he should probably sit this one out and come back healthier and stronger after the bye against the Chargers.
So, when you mentioned Duke Dawson going to the practice squad, there's a whole interesting thing surrounding that. So he went to the practice squad so the Broncos could get Mac McCain back from the Eagles active roster when they or the Eagles practice squad, I should say, or check that. He was claimed off for waivers by the Broncos. Let me rewind. So McCain gets let go because the Broncos trade Kerry Vincent Jr. to the Eagles, and the Broncos get a better draft selection than they positioned him, and they get a player back that they never wanted to lose off of the practice squad, McCain, to begin with. So, in a very roundabout way and a convoluted fashion, not explaining it very well. It's an interesting trifecta there, and on how we ended up back with a player that the Donatel was saying that was a guy that they never wanted to lose to begin with. So,
yeah. And so I kind of want to take it from there and switch it to what was said in the press conferences. So we had Kenny Young, right? He said that he wanted to stay in Denver for the future. So this is my question to you.
Yes.
Kenny Young is a great fit in Fangio's 3-4 scheme.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have Fangio next year, and for example, say that we have Dan Quinn, he plays a 4-3.
Someone's
Kenny Young is
watching Broncos country tonight.
Right? Kenny Young isn't really a fit in that defensive scheme. And as much as I love Kenny Young, do you try to re-sign him right now or do you wait?
I would probably wait. I would wait to see how the it's not really a huge rush. You kind of want to see how everything pans out with the coaching and what you're going to do with. Because coaching is going to be number one right now. Coaching is going to be what are you going to do there. If they continue to win, then potentially Fangio sticks around, and then you could worry about Kenny Young. But I think that is going to tell whether or not we decide to keep him. But he is a good player, and I feel like that's something that you could potentially sign back on for a lesser contract with another coach. Like another coach might have a similar scheme. Sometimes you just gotta bet on the player, like not necessarily a scheme. Like a lot of people, I didn't think that the Broncos were going to go after Patrick Surtain because he wasn't necessarily a scheme fit. And then they did, even though they mentioned like you can't always go after scheme fits because then you pass on a good player that could potentially adapt. So I would personally wait to see what happens with Fangio first, or when you get an idea of where that's going to lead, and then make the decision on Kenny Young.
Yeah, I'm going to second what Boggin said.
EJ says wait.
Those press conferences today were really good. I'm just sharing them on the MHRT Facebook page. They're worth watching. Not only do we have Vic and Shermer and Donatel, we ended up with Quinn Miners for an extended period of time, Kenny Young for an extended period of time, and then Javonte for the last few minutes. And I mean, the likability of these players that aren't considered our star players on this team is making this a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, when Kenny was asked straight up, do you feel like do you see yourself staying in Denver? And he said he fell in love with essentially that he loved Colorado a week in. Said it's not a bad place to live. I'm from the countryside in Louisiana, and after LA, this is great. And he talked about Fangio's scheme and how he knew a lot about it because of Staley, and he said the Vic was the father of the defense that they were running. He called him that. So he has a lot of respect for the coaches, which I'm sure didn't go over well for his fan base.
And everybody loved that video of him taking out Teddy.
Yeah,
he's already dealing with injuries. We don't need to just add on to you sneaking up, breaking his back.
Slow it down a little bit.
Drew Lock's just behind him, like, oh, come on. Oh, shoot.
Give me another chance.
but it didn't seem like he and Teddy knew each other prior to him coming here. It sounds like that relationship has developed over the last couple of weeks. And he made a point of saying, I like my teammates to have, I like to celebrate their success. So when somebody does something great, and Teddy had a great game, I'm going to celebrate it. So
Teddy Bridgewater, just like the Ted Lasso of the Broncos.
Guys have a particular of the game for the Cowboys. Offensive, defensive, overall, both. It doesn't matter.
For the Cowboys?
For the Broncos.
Yeah, from the.
Yeah, let's pick a Cowboys player of the game.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what you said. I wasn't sure.
Dude, I would say Jonathan Cooper.
I'm going to say
that guy was.
Damn it, Boggins.
That dude was.
You got to make up your own now.
Not just the 2 actual sacks that he got. Like, that dude was getting pressure. He was eating their backup left tackle. And I know that it was their backup left tackle. However, he was still looking very good for a 7th round pick. Like, he is looking very good. And he was really close to getting a strip sack on top of his already good stats. So I just would love to continue to see him progress. But he is my player of the game.
Javante's an obvious one, but I'm going to go Kyle Fuller. I mean, we've been all over him for the last few weeks, and rightfully so. And here he comes in, totally engaged, playing a position that he's never played in his entire career, and he was a force. And he was, just the whole defensive backfield. Darby played a great game, but Fuller really stood out for me.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say Justin Simmons. He was all over the field, and when Justin Simmons doesn't have to go out and help do somebody else's job in terms of support or cover, and he can actually do his own job, Justin Simmons is not only annoying, but he can be a threat. He was there when he needed to, he was there where he needed to be. He batted passes away. He almost had an interception on that deep Dak Prescott heave. So Simmons is my pick for player of the game.
I'm going to stick with the same thing I said on Broncos Talk. I'm going to go Stephen Weatherly. That guy, even if he's not getting pressure, he is in the way. And that's what you want. Like when Prescott would run out to the right or the running backs would run out, a lot of the times during that losing streak, you'd have a guy outside and a guy inside, and you'd have the whole center field to go ahead and just run where he wanted to. And Weatherly's that guy that gets in the hole and just plugs that gap. And that's, I love Stephen Weatherly. Almost as much as Kenny Young.
What's interesting is the offense puts up 30 points, has the ball for 40 minutes, and all 4 of us picked a defensive player as the player of the game.
That's because the defense was so bad. And it's nuts.
It's like so bad.
Well, yeah, during that losing streak, it was terrible. So it's shit it's crazy to think that so Stephen Weatherly, Kenny Young, again, I believe was probably the best trade any team has made in the season. The way that they were able to come in and help turn the defense around. And then Baron Browning is playing lights out. Jonathan Cooper's playing lights out. Caden Stearns is a revelation and going to be awesome next year. So it's you can't look at a George Payton pick right now and be like, oh, well, that was terrible.
Yeah, and the Broncos defense also taught the Cowboys a very important lesson, and that's stop trying to fish for garbage points. Ezekiel Elliott was hobbling on that sideline when there was only 3 or 4 minutes left, and Dak Prescott could have been the exact same way, trying to get garbage points. So I believe that Denver kind of taught the Cowboys that just take what you can get.
Don't go for it on fourth down.
Don't go for it on fourth down. Stop trying to get those empty calories, as Shannon Sharp said.
Isn't it?
No.
The Matumbo.
And now the Cowboys are hurting even more for that if Zeke has to miss out any time going forward, especially this part of the season.
Yeah.
Of course, they could say the same thing about people complaining about the going for the Hail Mary at the end of the first half and Glasgow breaking his leg on that play. So
yep. Isn't it kind of weird that it's nice that a lot of these players are working themselves into what will be free agent spots coming up, like Josie Jewell and Alexander Johnson. And then we have, I know Kenny Young is going to be, but Baron Browning really stepping up.
Mm-hmm.
K-Jack going to be a free agent. Caden Stearns stepping up. Kyle Fuller going to be a free agent. Patrick Surtain stepping up. Like, it's just a lot of these players that are doing what you would hope an organization would provide, and these players to be able to these young players to be able to step into what would be free agent spots in the coming year, and they're actually performing. So, Peyton's first year is looking real good so far. But we also let's not get too ahead of ourselves, because remember, Noah Fant, we're looking pretty good, and things start up a little bit. So,
and we still don't have Ojemudia. So here's another guy that's under contract, and
absolutely.
So then that begs the question: in
the
offseason, does that make Alexander Johnson, Josie Jewell, Bryce Callahan, Melvin Gordon, does that make them more expendable because we have these younger guys stepping up?
I would say
same thing with Kareem Jackson and Caden Stearns. Does that make him more expendable because we have that younger guy that's able to come in and we don't have to pay them big money?
I don't want to say expendable. I would say it gives us more options to do what we need to do in the free agency, whether we go for a veteran quarterback or not. It just gives us I think that's what Peyton wants, though. He wants the options, and this is kind of working out perfectly for him. So it's really going to come down to it's going to be Peyton's offseason. I'm really excited for it, because he has so many different ways he can go as far as players, as far as coaching. Even though the ownership is kind of up in the air, there's just so many different options, which is great to have as a GM.
Speaking of options, Hinton.
Oh.
I was just going to leave it there and let you guys go. Hinton.
Yeah. Good for him.
You got to say Hall of Famer Hinton, but and
also
Hall of Famer Troy Rank. We got to congratulate our buddy Troy. Yeah. He is in the Centennial High Hall of Fame in Pueblo. But anyway, just Javonte, when asked about his relationship with Gordon, he said, it's one of those things where he could Gordon could have been like, "Stay out of my cage," was the expression he used. And he said he wasn't like that. He drew me in immediately. He's helped me out when I've done something, that needed some advice. He's done it. He goes, "We make a great 1-2 punch." He's out there for a series. He's fresh. And then I go in, and, Melvin said a similar thing. He goes, "When Javonte makes a big play, it makes me say, I need to go now make a big play. I can't let him be the only one doing it." And so they really are playing off of each other. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is I would like to bring Melvin back. I'm not saying at that same price tag, but I think it's worth exploring bringing him back at maybe a $4 or $5 million contract.
Ay, Dios mío. You know what? If it wasn't for the giant or the big salary cap that the Broncos are going to have next year, a lot of these players can go into next contract season or whatever and say, "Hey, look, I want to be a Bronco. I like where the team is going," and they could settle for a team friendly deal and continue to stay and keep a spot on the team. But I don't think we'll get that side of Peyton. I think Peyton is going to keep the guys, kind of keep that John Elway mentality where, only keep the people that want to be Broncos type of thing. Or he just could go off and get whoever he feels is making things work around here from the past season. Or if Vic Fangio gets canned, then they bring in another head coach and they bring in their staff. And they kind of just congregate and get their ideas together to see, okay, we want to keep him. We don't need him. But I guess it all really depends on who the head coach is next season. If it's Fangio, I think we're going to see George Payton kind of move players around just to see who he really likes and who he feels will be a really good addition to this team next year. Because as we saw going into the season, guys, the names on paper didn't really stick out, and that defense didn't play up to par as we had hoped. Basically, the defense that we saw in this Cowboys game was the defense we were expecting to see in week 1. It's just different players, but the same energy, same
that was for
magic.
The whole team.
Yeah, for the whole team. So, I mean, maybe it just took a little bit of moving around to kind of get that whole, system going. And hopefully Peyton or Fangio or somebody can keep it going and get us into the postseason.
What's funny is that it seemed like the defense was terrible, and they still were one of the top defenses in the entire NFL.
Yeah.
All along. So, in talking about next year, what happens with Tim Patrick? What happens with Courtland Sutton? I mean, can we keep the two of them? It would be devastating to lose Tim Patrick at this point. I mean, the guy is he's incredible. I mean,
well, and you got to think that with the players that are now playing well, that gives us more of an option to be able to sign both. I don't see why we couldn't at this point. I mean, if we're not having to, again, sucks that he got traded, but if we're not having to re-sign Vaughn and we're not as concerned about Johnson and Jewell, I don't see why we aren't able to go get Sutton and Patrick.
Agreed. I mean, the whole thing with Vaughn kind of opened everybody's eyes in Broncos country. And we say this all the time on this podcast, guys. When Elway was GM, we were so used to seeing things, from orange-colored glasses, that Vaughn was really going to be a Bronco for life and that Drew Lock was going to be the starting quarterback and he was going to be the next, franchise quarterback of the team. And, John Elway leaves, not town, but, he kind of steps down from his position, and here comes George Payton, and he just starts doing all these things that we're just not used to. And when it starts to rub Broncos country the wrong way, it's like it really pisses us off at first, but when we see the results, when we see what's going on, like with the Cowboys, it gives us hope, going forward, and it just gives us inspiration that it even though things can be tough sometimes, especially when you're playing against really good teams or whatever, that given the right amount of energy, given the right amount of people, when you put them in where they're supposed to be and they do what they're being paid to do at the best of their ability, that I really think that the Broncos could go all the way with that type of mentality. And I wish I could be right about that.
Yeah. So let's kind of, well, hold on. Oh yeah, Mark, how many injuries do we have? I think we know Glasgow's out.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like Bowles potentially will be. But other than that, I don't think there's any confirmed out.
Well, Massey's definitely not playing.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely.
Oh,
out.
I thought he was questionable. So
No.
Massey's. So is Bowles a guaranteed out, or is Bowles a maybe?
Vic said less than 50% chance for Bowles.
Yeah, they're not going to rush him out on the field.
So we're probably going to end up looking at a Calvin Anderson left tackle and a Cam Fleming right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And as far as I know, nobody else is ruled out. Reisner's day-to-day, but that's just because he got his ankle stepped on today. Patrick Surtain, it was a mild knee sprain, so he's day-to-day. I don't think there's anybody that's actually ruled out.
I think they're playing it smartly. They had 9 guys, out of practice yesterday, and have eased a few back in. It's not worth it. We have one more game before the bye. Let's get some of these guys healthy. The backups, I mean, that line, 3/5 of the line for most of the game were highly effective, and just let's be smart about where we're at as far as the injuries go.
Yeah, and you're not wrong about that, Glenn. One of the things that I saw in most columns when people were talking about the Broncos going into this Eagles game and into the bye week is the fact that the injuries for the Broncos are starting to pile up. And while Denver did start the season with really good depth, and while this also is a next man up type of league, you really don't want to put that to into play, especially the closer you get towards the postseason. So the Broncos have to win this game to the best of their ability and limit the injuries going into the bye, because you don't want to add, more names to that injury list, and keeping these really good players off the field for potentially longer than they really should be, especially with an extra game being added that could have playoff implications for the Broncos where they might need to have all their starters start. It'd be kind of like Russian roulette in a way, where it could pay off or it could, backfire. And then hopefully we don't end up where we were last season, where close to the end of the season, a bunch of our players got hurt. And then it was just, going into the end with just whoever was available on the waiver wire, so to speak.
And Mark says that Fleming sucks, but it is what it is. I will say this. Fleming in training camp was absolutely terrible. But I would argue that during the Dallas game, Fleming and Miners on the right-hand side were part of the reason why we were able to run so well on the right.
Agreed.
Especially when they started. So when Reisner and Miners would be pulling, that definitely helped out. But I would argue that Fleming and Miners were one of the main reasons why we got the running game going in the second half.
Yeah. I agree, boss. Not to mention that when you sprinkle some of that Williams magic on there, where he can just push defensive lines back and make linebackers miss or look silly, it just adds even more. Basically, it made the Broncos look like what they should have been doing since the very beginning, which is just run the ball. If you can punish the defense with running the ball, and the Cowboys were using Micah Parsons more as a defensive end than what his natural position is in terms of an inside linebacker. So that's usually why you saw the Cowboys get those sacks, was because Micah Parsons was, coming and blitzing in from the edge. And while the Cowboys have had success with that in the past with other teams, not every offense runs the same way. So,
well, Dallas had been doing that with Parsons all year. Like he went from edge to outside to inside and then back. So Glenn, this is kind of a question for you. Did Fangio hint at Calvin Anderson being moved to starting right tackle eventually? What did he say about Anderson at the press conference?
Yesterday he said that he did a great job, but I don't recall any hinting. I think that the plan is to have Bowles and Massey be the starting right tackle, or starting tackle tandem when both are healthy.
So next year, Massey, let's say Massey's gone. Is it Anderson or is
Poltergeist?
Hello, Poltergeist. I don't even know what that was. Is it Anderson or is it
behind you?
Fleming. Don't do that.
Well, what's
next year right tackle.
One of the things about Massey that's interesting is that and I've mentioned it before, is that his family moved to Colorado prior to him signing with the Broncos. So they were living in I believe Castle Rock. So he may be somebody that, just by virtue of geography and that the family is staying here, may be somebody that we could continue to have long term, even if it is in a backup capacity when at a reduced rate, if you wanted to have a Calvin Anderson at right tackle.
And I didn't have any problems with DeMar Dotson. So I have had absolutely no issues with Massey starting at right tackle. I have no issues with him staying at right tackle for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and it's great to have when you decide to draft other tackles too, that can sit behind and move up the ranks. Tackle, you can never have enough tackles.
So let's take a glance at this Eagles game coming up here on Sunday. EJ says the Eagles' strength is their defensive line, but their linebackers suck. And besides Slay, their secondary is terrible. Expect a lot of passing yards from Teddy.
I'm not going to expect a lot of passing.
Didn't we expect a lot of passing yards against a team that was a run-heavy defense, and we just got
See, that's the kind of thinking that, while it does make sense when you think about it, and there is some truth to that statement.
Oh, that was the Steelers.
Yeah, there is really no way to figure out to see how the Eagles are going to come in and try to play Denver. So basically, Jalen Hurts is a mobile quarterback. Denver has not had the best of luck with mobile quarterbacks trying to keep them contained. But that was before the Broncos had Stephen Weatherly, and hopefully we get Malik Reed back for this game, coming in from the sides and just kind of forcing Jalen Hurts to play from the pocket. If the Broncos defense can force Jalen Hurts to play from the pocket and throw the ball, then I do believe the secondary will be in a position to make big key plays and get cause turnovers. But if they don't and they let Jalen Hurts find a guy like Devontae Smith, who's a pretty good wide receiver, then it's going to be a long day at the office for the Broncos. But this shouldn't be a game where the Broncos get stopped. This should be a statement game where the Broncos need a win and they need to go into the bye week with that momentum.
I almost hope we win just to help the Eagles fire their coach.
Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, because he's not. It's not.
I don't even know who the coach is.
Yeah, it's just like all not looking good over there. Anyways, I think we have a pretty good chance to beat the Eagles. They just don't have any like solid. And they're very similar to the Washington football team. Whew, that was close. They are very close, like very similar as far as roster to them, in my opinion. And so I think we definitely have a good chance of beating them. I would never bet on our offense putting up a ton of points, though. That's just not Teddy's game unless it's like a ton of yak yards. So yeah, but I think we have a really good chance of actually getting another win going into the bye, looking at 6-4, which is a lot better than what we have been at.
So we've been impressed with our running backs, and Jalen Hurts actually has more rushing yards than both our guys. He's at 494, so he's most likely going to be over 1,000 yards rushing for the season. And Melvin's at 477 and Javonte's at 466. So kind of an interesting fun fact there.
So that Shermer should run the ball more.
Yeah, I think that would be so Vic actually did say about dual threat quarterbacks. He goes, in the old days, it was someone that was able to scramble around, that he goes, but now it's someone that can actually put up some real numbers on the ground as a quarterback.
Real numbers.
And I'm very impressed at how profound of an effect Jerry Jeudy has on the offense for the Broncos. Like,
no, he doesn't have any effect.
Even without
Fangio said no, he doesn't.
They don't have to do anything differently to prepare for
even without Sutton really doing much in that game. Tim Patrick stepped up because he was able to get open, because you had so many people having to worry about where Jerry Jeudy's at, because he's always open at some point. So please don't ever let him.
Did you hear what he said to Trayvon Diggs in the mic'd up when Trayvon Diggs was like, man, he's trying to help his buddy out. Judy's talking to Trayvon, his former teammate at Alabama, like, oh, keep your head up, man, keep your head up. And he's like, man, they keep calling me on all these they keep calling holding on me. And Jerry Judy's like, well, stop holding. What do you want me to say? Stop holding, and they won't call you on these holds.
Avatar checking in, saying what's up. He said he didn't think he was going to be able to make it this week, but he did. Hi, how you doing, Avatar?
What's going on?
Contender View says Sirianni is good. It's their defensive coach that sucks, in my opinion. I don't even know who the defensive coach is.
Well,
their defense is bad.
Yeah, when the boss doesn't know who the coaching staff is in Philly, that's when you know.
I feel like I'm a Don. I don't know who anybody is anymore.
Yeah.
I had to get that one in there.
Yeah, it's people in wheelchairs walking by.
Yeah, exactly. We need to run the rock down the Eagles' throats this weekend. Yeah, I don't think our game plan needs to change any. I mean, it's when you stop running the ball and just throw it the whole time, that's where you get into trouble. So I think either way, you got to run it.
Although it's weird though, right? Because this last game, it looked like the coaching staff actually planned for who they were playing. Like they actually looked competent out there, which maybe you'll hope that they continue to do so this week, instead of just like doing what they usually do and just hoping that the other team matches up poorly to what they usually do.
Yeah. But in all fairness, Jerry Jones, when he was going over the game plan with McCarthy, they knew exactly what the Broncos were going to do. I mean, he made that clear.
I was going to say, at the same time, like, we are going against Mike McCarthy coach team.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and kind of to EJ's point, as far as expecting us to run, it doesn't matter. You always have you have to establish a running game. Otherwise, unless you have a Josh Allen or Mahomes, you have to establish a running game.
Oh, Jonathan Gannon is the defensive coordinator. I forgot about that. And he was he was one of those that was on the list of potential coaches that the Broncos would go after. He was
Dan Quinn. Oh, that looked good.
Oh.
Did you see Kellen? Did you see Kellen Moore? Like TCU wanted to interview him, then like, we don't want to interview you anymore.
No, we're good.
That's not nice. That's
okay.
I really do think that like that game would have been a lot different if Dak was completing some of it. Like some of his passes were potential touchdowns, and so like Dak did have a really off game. But I'm not to take away from our win.
I was going to say the same thing. Like, I'm not taking anything away from Denver's defense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there were some plays that the Cowboys just messed up. Like, there were some throws that were off. The receivers were dropping the ball. It seemed like Ezekiel wasn't his normal self. I don't know what it was. I still think even if the Cowboys offense had been hitting 100% of the time, playing like they normally do, I still think we win that game.
Yeah,
I just think it's a lot closer.
Aside from the scrambling that should have resulted in more sacks for Denver than I like to admit actually happened, Dak Prescott looked like I feel like he was rushed out there. And, the Cowboys coming back from a big game up in Minnesota and, with Cooper Rush bringing in a victory for them, it kind of helped masquerade Denver in terms of, because everybody in Dallas leading up to that game, and I could tell you, especially hearing it on radio and TV all that entire weekend, was just kind of brushing Denver off. It's almost like, why are they even showing up? They're going to get stomped on. Just put it on the win column type of thing. And then after the Cowboys get stomped and shockwaves go throughout the entire NFL that Denver beat a powerhouse like Dallas, it was just McCarthy coming up with excuses and Dak coming up with excuses, and Skip Bayless going out there and saying that Dak played more like a $7.50 quarterback than a $750 million quarterback, and Jerry Jones obviously kind of repeating the same thing the day after on his podcast.
See, that's rude. That's like saying Skip Bayless had a $7.50 facelift, which is probably pretty close to what
Eagles dropped a 50 burger last time.
Whoa.
I would have respected the Cowboys more if they had said, they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Playoffs?
Playoffs.
Mark from Georgia says, "Okay, guys, final score for this game: Eagles drop a 50 burger last time."
Last time we played them.
Yeah, it was in Philly. They destroyed us.
That was when I think that was 2016, 2017.
No, it was a couple of years ago.
Who was the quarterback?
Osweiler, I think. Oh, for the Eagles?
No. Yeah.
I was going to say Osweiler wasn't on the Eagles.
No.
It would have had to be either Wentz.
I barely remember that game.
Foles, or who was before that? Vic?
Vic was like early 2000s. No, it was.
Anyway,
it was
I don't know.
Yeah, moving on.
That. Yeah. I must have put that out of my brain. It was that bad.
Yeah, it was. We got stopped.
So far, I'm on a roll. Like, I picked the Broncos to beat the Cowboys, so I'm going to go Broncos.
And
30, Broncos 35, Eagles 17.
And I remember that game because the Eagles were trolling the Broncos because they said that they ran out of fireworks. So they couldn't play no more fireworks every time the Eagles scored. So, yeah, I remember that game. But I think the Broncos are in a better position at this point in time than the Eagles. The Eagles, with their 3 wins, they kind of won those games more out of luck than out of sheer skill. There are some people that are still high on the potential that Jalen Hurts has as a quarterback in this league. But unfortunately, they haven't been able to tap that. And changing head coaches didn't bring them the results that they expected. And I have to agree. So I'm going to say that Denver wins this 33-14. Or 34-14, either one. Yeah.
So just going back to the 50 burger, I was wrong. I said it was a couple of years ago. It was actually 2017, and Brock Osweiler was our quarterback in that game.
Told you.
So that would have been 2017 would have been Wentz then.
And they had Wentz at 15 of 27 for 199 and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
199 yards passing
and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's not good.
That's not good.
I'm confused.
That means we were giving them short fields.
I'm gonna have to go like YouTube that after this.
We had McMahon as special teams coordinator, right? Because that would explain that.
Probably. Yeah. I feel like that was a game where they jumped over the line to block a kick. It was one of those crazy special teams plays. So you may be right. I'm going with Broncos 31-17.
Ooh. I think that I like the matchup. I think that we will have a decent advantage at home, having a C-level team have to come to Denver. So I will go.
Don't make us do math, Mark.
I'm going to say 24-17. Broncos.
24-17.
Mark with the 3 exclamation points. Kind of an aggressive play there.
Oh,
sassy.
This is not all in caps.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's going to be a good game.
So Contender View says 17
following week,
to 9.
I already make my prediction for the following week after the Eagles. I think the Broncos are going to score, and then the next week they'll have to get back to football, and then they'll have to play
the Chargers.
There was a lot of lead into that joke.
Wow. Landon says 49-3.
Tip your waitresses, folks.
Avatar says 30-17 Broncos. EJ says 24-17 Broncos.
He can't say that because I said that, and I'm on the
he
TV
put it
machine.
in there first.
But I'm on the TV machine.
Travis says 28-17 Broncos. So
there's a lot of 17s for the Eagles here.
Yeah,
it's an easy number to remember. It's easy to just say it.
And just so everyone knows, Dave Glassman is now Dave Half Glassman, because he's so negative all the time.
He was almost Dave Broken Glassman,
but I'm contemplating picking against him for superstitious reasons.
That's fair.
Yeah, I was gonna say I had my Tebow jersey on during that Dallas game, so I'm gonna have to wear my Tebow jersey for every game now.
Superstition.
That's and the same pair of underwear. That's what's gonna have to happen.
Oh Jesus.
All right, so that is going to about do it for us. We're gonna go ahead and hop out so we can catch this. I do even want to watch the Dolphins Ravens game. I mean, really?
Is it Ravens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
and Tua's not playing.
Ravens.
Not that
right. It's Brissett. It's Brissett.
Hey, I watched the Colts and Jets last week, so why not?
Yeah, hopefully I start and I gotta check my fantasy football.
Why you lose all your games? I don't even know why it matters. You.
I don't check our league. That's not the one I care about.
Wow.
I don't even think I start.
Wow.
I think I didn't even take Kyler Murray out this last week.
Daggers. Words from Boggins. Words.
So, anyways, off of those words of encouragement from Boggins, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on notifications so that you can catch all of our content when it's posted. Also, if you want to help support the MHRT Network, you can now do that. The link for that is in the description down below.
Do it.
Make sure you're also tuning in to Broncos Talk every Tuesday at 7654. The Nothing Rhymes Orange and Blue podcast on Friday at 7654. And the MHRT Network's own pregame show, The Neighborhood, that airs before every Broncos game. You can also catch all the audio versions of all the network's podcasts on all the major podcast streaming services. Links are in the description below. We also want to make sure that everybody is hitting those thumbs up. We want as many of those things as possible. And with that, we love you all. We love Broncos country. Now we're going to do what everybody loves to do, especially Boggins. It's a mile high five. Everybody ready?
Let's rock.
Mile high five. Woo! Hey, Boggins almost did it. It was like a roller coaster high five. That's what that was.
If I do the opposite way, would I take flight?
I thought his camera froze for a second.
Is that how birds
you
fly?
You just might. It might be. All right, everybody. We're going to go ahead and head out. We'll see you tomorrow on the Nothing Rhymes Orange and Blue podcast.
Hasta luego.
And remember,